The small town of Rivertown, nestled between vast forests and majestic mountains, was a place where everyone knew each other. The houses, with their time-worn wooden facades, were surrounded by well-kept gardens. Life there followed a slow and predictable rhythm. John, a middle-aged man with gray hair and calloused hands from work, had lived alone since his wife passed away. He spent his days at the mechanic shop, fixing cars and exchanging stories with the locals who came to see him. Lisa, on the other hand, was a young teacher of 30, always with a sparkle in her eyes. She dreamed of exploring the world beyond Rivertown's borders, but her passion for teaching and affection for her students kept her in the town. She was known for her empathy and determination, qualities that endeared her to everyone. It was a summer afternoon, and the sky was starting to darken with the promise of an imminent storm. Lightning streaked across the horizon, and distant thunder heralded the approaching tempest. John was closing the shop, preparing to face the stormy night in his quiet house. As he walked towards his car, he saw Lisa running in the opposite direction, concerned about the sudden change in weather. "John, did you see the storm forming? I think we should check if anyone is trapped in the forest," Lisa said, breathless. John frowned, observing the dark clouds rapidly approaching. "You're right, Lisa. Let's take a look." They grabbed flashlights and raincoats and headed to the forest trail. The storm hit with full force, thunder roaring and lightning illuminating the uneven path. The tree branches swayed violently, and the sound of the rain was deafening. They walked for about half an hour, calling out for anyone who might be lost. It was then that they heard a faint, almost imperceptible sound amidst the storm's roar. "Did you hear that?" Lisa asked, stopping abruptly. John nodded, directing the flashlight towards the sound. There, under a fallen tree, they saw something that left them stunned. It was a child, or at least it seemed to be. He was huddled, drenched, and visibly injured. "My God, we need to get him out of here," exclaimed Lisa, kneeling beside the boy. John quickly removed the fallen tree, and together, they carried the child back to town. As they carried the child, John and Lisa wondered where he had come from. The forest around Rivertown was vast and dense, rarely visited by outsiders. The boy was unconscious but breathing, which gave them a sense of urgency mixed with relief. Arriving at John's house, they dried the boy and warmed him by the fireplace. Lisa tended to his injuries while John prepared something warm for everyone. When the boy slowly opened his eyes, they revealed an unusual glow that left them intrigued. "What is your name?" Lisa asked gently, trying to calm him. "Ethan," he replied in a weak voice. "Where did you come from, Ethan?" John asked, trying to sound soothing. Ethan hesitated, his eyes showing fear and confusion. I don't know," he finally said. "I think I'm lost." John and Lisa exchanged worried looks. There was something about Ethan that didn't seem normal. His features, though human, had an indefinable peculiarity. His eyes, in particular, shone with an intensity they had never seen before. "You're safe now, Ethan. We're going to take care of you," said Lisa, trying to comfort him. The storm outside raged on, but inside John's house, a sense of determination and care began to form. Ethan's arrival had not only interrupted Rivertown's peaceful routine but also planted the seeds of a mystery that John and Lisa were determined to unravel. And as the storm continued, they knew this was just the beginning of a journey that would change their lives forever. Back at John's house, they dried and warmed the boy. Lisa tended to his injuries while John prepared something warm for everyone. The boy slowly opened his eyes, revealing an unusual glow that left them intrigued. "What is your name?" Lisa asked gently. "Ethan," he replied in a weak voice. "Where did you come from, Ethan?" John asked, trying to sound soothing. Ethan hesitated, his eyes showing fear and confusion. I don't know," he finally said. "I think I'm lost." John and Lisa exchanged worried looks. There was something about Ethan that didn't seem normal. His features, though human, had an indefinable peculiarity. His eyes, in particular, shone with an intensity they had never seen before. "You're safe now, Ethan. We're going to take care of you," said Lisa, trying to comfort him. In the days that followed, Ethan began to recover. Lisa brought books and games to entertain him, while John tried to find out more about the mysterious boy. They avoided talking about Ethan to the townspeople, fearing that curiosity and rumors might attract unwanted attention. One night, while Ethan slept, John and Lisa talked in the kitchen. "John, have you noticed how his eyes glow? And how he seems to know things he shouldn't?" asked Lisa, concerned. "Yes, Lisa. There's something very different about him. But until we know more, we need to protect him." "He's just a child, after all," replied John, thoughtfully. The next morning, Ethan was playing in the yard when a group of town children passed by. They stopped, curious to see a new face. "Who are you?" one of the boys asked. "My name is Ethan," he replied shyly. "Are you new in town?" "We've never seen you before," said a girl. Ethan hesitated, not knowing what to say. Lisa, who was watching closely, quickly intervened. "This is Ethan. He's staying with us for a while. Please be kind to him." The children accepted the explanation, though they continued to look at Ethan with curiosity. Lisa knew she couldn't hide Ethan's presence forever, but she needed time to understand more about him and how to protect him. Meanwhile, John was at the shop when he found a strange man waiting for him. The man, dressed in a dark suit, looked out of place in the small town. "Can I help you?" John asked, suspicious. "Where's the boy?" the man asked, his voice low and threatening. "What boy?" John responded, trying to stay calm. "You know who I'm talking about." "He doesn't belong here," the man said, stepping forward. John felt a chill down his spine. "I don't know what you're talking about. Now, if you don't mind, I have work to do." The man looked at him for a few more seconds before turning and leaving. John knew this was just the beginning. He needed to protect Ethan at all costs. Back at the house, he found Lisa and Ethan in the kitchen. The look on John's face alarmed Lisa. "What happened?" she asked. "Someone is looking for Ethan," John said, looking at the boy who now felt like part of his life. "We need to find out who he really is and how to protect him." Lisa nodded, determined. "We'll do it together. No matter what happens, we'll keep him safe." Thus, life in Rivertown changed forever. Little Ethan, with his secrets and mysterious abilities, united John and Lisa in a mission that would require courage, sacrifice, and above all, love. And while the storm outside had passed, a new storm was brewing, one that would test the limits of their humanity and the depth of their compassion. Weeks passed quickly in Rivertown, and Ethan's presence began to become routine for John and Lisa. One morning, as the sun timidly rose over the mountains, John woke up feeling nostalgic. He went to the room where Ethan was still sleeping deeply, and the sight of the boy made his heart ache. That scene brought back memories of his late wife, Emily. John quietly left the room and went to the porch, where he sat with a steaming cup of coffee. He closed his eyes and let himself be carried away by the memories. Emily had always wanted to adopt a child. They talked at length about it, imagining what it would be like to have a child running around the house, bringing life and laughter. But Emily's illness and subsequent death abruptly ended those dreams. "You would have loved Ethan, Emily," John murmured to himself, feeling a mix of sadness and comfort. Taking care of Ethan seemed like a way to honor Emily's memory, to keep alive the desire she had so deeply nurtured. Meanwhile, Lisa was at school, watching her students with a gentle smile. The responsibility of protecting Ethan awakened a strong maternal instinct in her that she didn't know she had. During the break, she found herself thinking about her own childhood. Lisa grew up in a tumultuous household, where she was often the protector of her younger siblings. Her parents, busy with their own struggles, didn't have much time for the children. Lisa learned early on to be strong and take care of others. These experiences shaped her, making her the empathetic and determined person she was today. She remembered a specific night when her younger sister, Sarah, was sick. Lisa stayed up all night caring for her and promised herself that when she grew up, she would dedicate her life to protecting the most vulnerable. Now, with Ethan, she felt she was fulfilling that promise. That night, after dinner, John and Lisa sat with Ethan in the living room. The flames in the fireplace cast dancing shadows on the walls, creating a cozy atmosphere. "Ethan, we want to talk to you," John began, choosing his words carefully. "We know you're special. And we want to understand more about you." Ethan looked at them, his eyes shining with that peculiar light. He seemed to hesitate, but finally nodded. "I don't know exactly where I came from," he said. "But I know I'm different. I can do things other people can't." "What kind of things?" Lisa asked, leaning forward with interest. Ethan raised his hand and, with a subtle motion, made a small stone on the table float in the air. John and Lisa watched, impressed and a little apprehensive. "That's amazing, Ethan," John said, trying to hide his surprise. "But you need to be very careful with that. People might not understand." Lisa agreed. "Ethan, we're here to protect you. We'll find out more about these abilities and how you can control them. But we need to be discreet." Ethan nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. He felt safe with John and Lisa, seeing them as parental figures he never had. This sense of security allowed him to start opening up more. That same week, John and Lisa began investigating unexplained phenomena and UFO sightings in the region. They scoured old newspapers and conducted online research, trying to find any clue that might explain Ethan's origin. During this process, their partnership strengthened, and they developed a mutual trust. One night, while John was in the shop, Lisa walked in carrying a box of old books. "I found this in the school's attic," she said, placing the box on the table. "Some of these books talk about strange light sightings in the sky, things that happened decades ago. Maybe we can find something useful." John looked at the books and then at Lisa, feeling a wave of gratitude. "You've been amazing, Lisa. I don't know what I would do without you." Lisa smiled. "We're in this together, John. Ethan needs us." As they leafed through the books, Ethan was in the yard, secretly practicing his abilities. He discovered he could move objects with his mind, but also that he could heal small injuries. These discoveries left him both amazed and scared. One afternoon, while playing with the neighborhood children, one of the boys, Tommy, fell and hurt his knee. Ethan, without thinking, placed his hand over the injury, and in seconds, the wound disappeared. Tommy looked at him with wide eyes. "How did you do that?" Tommy asked, astonished. Ethan quickly made up an excuse. "I think it was just luck. Maybe it wasn't as bad as it looked." Tommy accepted the explanation, but Ethan knew he needed to be more careful. He ran inside and found John and Lisa in the kitchen, discussing their latest discoveries. "John, Lisa, I need to talk to you," he said, breathless. "I healed Tommy's injury." John and Lisa exchanged a worried look. "Ethan, you have to be very careful," Lisa said, kneeling to his level. "We need to keep this a secret. People might not understand and might be afraid." Ethan nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility. He knew his abilities made him special but also put him in danger. John placed a hand on his shoulder. "We'll help you control this, Ethan. You're not alone." Weeks passed, and the bond between the three grew stronger. John and Lisa began to feel more like parents to Ethan, and he, in turn, came to see them as his family. They started sharing more moments together, creating memories that would stay with them forever. One night, while sitting around the fireplace, Ethan looked at John and Lisa with a shy smile. "You feel like my family," he said. "Thank you for taking care of me." John and Lisa looked at each other, emotional. "We feel the same, Ethan," John said, his voice choked. "We'll protect you, no matter what." Lisa held Ethan's hand. "We're in this together. Always." With that promise, they knew they were ready to face any challenge that came their way. The journey to understand more about Ethan and protect his secret was just beginning, but with the strength of their new family, they were prepared for anything. The bond between them grew stronger every day, and the determination to protect Ethan reinforced the courage and unity they shared. With the love and support they now had for each other, they knew they could overcome any obstacle and uncover the truth about Ethan, no matter how mysterious and dangerous it might be. Days in Rivertown continued peacefully, but the peace was deceptive. Ethan's presence began to raise suspicions among the residents. Rumors about the new boy in town, who seemed to appear out of nowhere and was rarely seen in public, began to circulate. John and Lisa did their best to maintain Ethan's normal routine, but the curiosity of the residents grew. Small events, like the incident where Ethan healed Tommy's injury, did not go unnoticed. One day, while Lisa was at the grocery store, one of the neighbors, Margaret, approached her. "Lisa, who is that boy you and John are taking care of?" Margaret asked, with a curious expression. "His name is Ethan. He's staying with us for a while," Lisa replied, trying to sound casual. "But where did he come from?" "I've never seen his parents around here," Margaret continued, insistent. "It's a complicated situation, Margaret." "Please respect our privacy," Lisa said, cutting the conversation politely but firmly. Lisa felt a wave of discomfort. She knew Margaret's curiosity was just the beginning. The questions would continue, and eventually, someone might make dangerous connections. She returned home with a knot in her stomach, aware that time was running out. Meanwhile, John began to notice unfamiliar cars parked on the streets near his shop. Men who didn't seem to be from town asked for directions and subtly inquired about local life. One night, John and Lisa discussed their concerns after Ethan went to bed. "They're asking questions about him," Lisa said, worried. "I don't know how much longer we can keep this a secret." "I've noticed too. They're watching the shop, asking questions disguised as innocent curiosity," John replied. "We need to be prepared for anything." The tension grew, and John and Lisa found themselves increasingly torn between the need to protect Ethan and the fear of the consequences. Days passed, and the pressure increased. One morning, while John was at the shop, a man appeared. He wore a black suit and had a stern expression. He introduced himself as Agent Carter from the government. "John, right?" "We need to talk about Ethan," Carter said, bluntly. John felt a chill down his spine. "Who are you? What do you know about Ethan?" "I'm from the government. We're aware of his presence here, and we need to take him with us." "He's not an ordinary child," Carter said, his voice firm. John kept his composure. "You're not taking him anywhere. He's under our protection." Carter took a step forward. "John, you have no idea what's at stake. Ethan is dangerous. If not controlled, he could cause irreversible damage." John shook his head, incredulous. "He's just a child. I won't let you take him." Meanwhile, Lisa was at school when she received an urgent call from John. She felt her heart race at his words. "Lisa, we need to talk." "It's urgent," John said. Lisa dropped everything and ran home. She found John waiting at the door, looking worried. "What happened?" she asked, anxious. "A government agent showed up. He knows about Ethan and wants to take him." "He said he's dangerous," John explained. Lisa felt a knot in her throat. "We can't let them take him, John. Ethan trusts us." "I know, Lisa. But we need a plan," John said, determined. While discussing their options, Ethan entered the room. He could feel the tension in the air and knew something was wrong. "What's going on?" Ethan asked, wide-eyed. John and Lisa looked at each other before kneeling beside Ethan. "Ethan, we need to be honest with you," Lisa began. "A man from the government came here. They know about your abilities and want to take you." Ethan was silent for a moment, processing the information. "Why do they want to take me?" "They think you're dangerous." "But we know you're not," John said, holding Ethan's hand. "We'll protect you. We promise." Ethan felt a mix of fear and gratitude. He knew John and Lisa would do anything to keep him safe. "I trust you." That night, John and Lisa decided they needed to find out more about Ethan's origin and abilities. They knew the only way to protect him was to fully understand what they were facing. They conducted extensive searches for information, connecting dots and consulting unconventional sources. They found reports of strange light sightings in the sky and encounters with unexplained beings that coincided with the period when Ethan was found. During one of these investigations, they found an old diary from a local farmer who reported seeing a spaceship crash in the nearby mountains many years ago. The farmer described beings with extraordinary abilities and mentioned a child missing after the accident. With this new information, John and Lisa knew they had to act quickly. They decided to confront Agent Carter, demanding more answers. The next day, they searched for Carter and finally found him in a town cafe. They sat at his table, ready to get the answers they needed. "You said Ethan is dangerous. But what do you really know about him?" John asked, directly. Carter looked at them, measuring his words. "Ethan is from an alien race with powerful abilities. If these abilities are not controlled, they can be destructive. The government has been monitoring these beings for decades." Lisa frowned. "But he's just a child. We can't just take him away from us. He trusts us." Carter sighed. "I understand you're attached to him. But you need to understand the risk. We're willing to cooperate if you let us help." John and Lisa exchanged a look. They knew they needed the government's help to protect Ethan, but they also knew they couldn't just hand him over. "We want to protect Ethan. If you help us, we'll let you work with us." "But he stays under our guardianship," John said, firmly. Carter thought for a moment before agreeing. "Very well. But we need to work together to ensure everyone's safety." With this fragile agreement, John and Lisa knew the real battle was just beginning. They needed to find a balance between protecting Ethan and ensuring his abilities didn't become a threat. They returned home with a sense of relief mixed with apprehension. They explained the situation to Ethan, who, despite his fear, felt relieved to know he wasn't alone. "We'll figure this out together, Ethan," Lisa said, hugging him. "No matter what happens, we're by your side." John nodded. "We're a family now. And families protect each other." With this promise, they knew they would face any challenge, together. The journey to understand and protect Ethan was just beginning, and with each step, the bond between them grew even stronger. They woke up to the sound of heavy footsteps in the house. John and Lisa ran to Ethan's room, but found the bed empty. The window was open, and the cold night breeze entered, giving Lisa goosebumps. On the floor, signs of struggle and footprints led outside. "Ethan!" Lisa shouted, feeling panic tighten her chest. John pulled her out of the room, trying to stay calm. "We have to go after him," John said, determined. "They can't have gone far." They took John's truck and followed the tire tracks on the dirt road. Agent Carter and his team had taken Ethan. John and Lisa knew they had to act fast. They arrived at a clearing in the forest, where they saw a helicopter about to take off. John accelerated, stopping abruptly and getting out of the vehicle with Lisa by his side. "Give him back!" John shouted, advancing. Carter and his men surrounded them, weapons drawn. "You don't understand," Carter said, trying to stay calm. "We're doing this for everyone's sake. Ethan is dangerous. He's not a monster." Lisa shouted, tears in her eyes. "He's just a boy. Our boy." Ethan, who was being taken to the helicopter, heard the shouting and struggled against his captors. An intense energy began to emanate from him, making the soldiers retreat. Ethan's eyes glowed more than ever, and objects around them began to float and disintegrate in the air. "Let him go!" John shouted, taking advantage of the distraction. He and Lisa ran towards Ethan, who, with a gesture of his hand, created a protective barrier around them. Carter watched, impressed and scared. "We need to control this." "No," exclaimed Lisa. You're not taking him. He's not a threat. The barrier around John, Lisa, and Ethan pulsed with energy. John knelt beside Ethan, placing his hands on the boy's shoulders. Ethan, it's okay. We're here. We don't need to fight. Ethan looked at John and Lisa, and the intensity in his eyes diminished. The barrier slowly dissipated, and the objects in the air gently fell to the ground. With Ethan safe in their arms, John and Lisa turned to Carter, ready to face the consequences. But to their surprise, Carter lowered his weapon and signaled his men to back off. Maybe I underestimated the situation, Carter said, cautiously. But you need to understand the risks. If Ethan doesn't learn to control his abilities, he could cause a catastrophe. Then help us, John said, firm. Not as a prisoner, but as part of our family. We'll teach him, take care of him. But we need your cooperation, not your weapons. Carter pondered for a moment before nodding. Very well. We'll work together. But I need to report this to my superiors. It may take time to convince them. Back in Rivertown, news of the confrontation in the forest quickly spread. The residents, initially curious and suspicious, began to realize the truth about Ethan. John and Lisa decided to hold a meeting in the town square to clarify everything. Friends, we have something important to share, John began, with Lisa and Ethan by his side. Ethan is not an ordinary child. He has special abilities. But he's not a threat. He's part of our family, and we're asking for your understanding and support. The initial reaction was shock, but after hearing the full story, most of the residents began to change their minds. Some, like Margaret, were still apprehensive, but John and Lisa's display of courage and love won many hearts. If John and Lisa believe they can take care of him, we should trust them, said the mayor, sealing the community's acceptance. With time, Carter managed to convince his superiors that Ethan could be an ally, not a threat. He ensured that Ethan and his new family would receive protection and resources to help him control his abilities. John and Lisa formalized Ethan's adoption. The process was swift, thanks to Carter's intervention. The ceremony was simple but full of emotion. The Rivertown community was present, showing support and solidarity. That night, while gathered around the fireplace, John, Lisa, and Ethan reflected on everything that had happened. I can't believe all we've been through, Lisa said, holding Ethan's hand. It's been quite a journey, John agreed. But we're together. And that's what matters. Ethan looked at his new parents, feeling deep gratitude. Thank you for everything. For not giving up on me. John smiled, pulling Ethan into a hug. We're a family, Ethan. And families protect each other. Lisa joined the hug, feeling a peace she hadn't felt in a long time. The threat of the unknown was still present, but with the community's support and the government's protection, they felt stronger and more prepared for the future. As months passed, Ethan continued to learn to control his abilities with the help of John, Lisa, and the resources provided by Carter. Life in Rivertown returned to a calmer rhythm, but with a new layer of hope and acceptance. John reopened the shop, Lisa returned to teaching at the school, and Ethan began to make friends in the community, which now accepted him as one of their own. The small town, once closed and suspicious, transformed into a place of inclusion and understanding, showing that with love and courage, any obstacle can be overcome. And so, under Rivertown's starry sky, a new story of hope and unity began to be written, with John, Lisa, and Ethan ready to face any challenge, together.